Kosawa, eh? Okay. So thanks, members of the media, for coming for this press conference. We're speaking to the state of our nation today on the devastating issue of Kenyans starving to death. But we ask this question: Is the starvation experienced in the 12 counties of Kenya really caused by drought and famine, as some leaders have alleged, or is actually caused by failed leadership and theft of public money meant for food security and agriculture? Just as a highlight to the state of our nation today, we wish to speak to the devastating state of starvation to death by Kenyans in a number of counties, and in particular, the county of Turkana, where images of starvation or starving residents continue to dot all media houses. Now, starvation in Turkana and other counties is of great concern to our nation today. The success and prosperity of any country and of any leadership can only be measured when the nationals of that country enjoy basic needs, especially food security, because that is what preserves a human dignity. The leadership of our country at both national and county levels have therefore failed Kenyans. It is shameful that in this 21st century, that a human being is starving to death in a country that is replete with resources of every kind. Interestingly, though, our leadership has never failed in one thing: the stealing of public money that is meant to prevent such disasters as starvation of Kenyans. The success in theft of public money by the leadership has succeeded so much because, despite evidence, none of our leadership has even been prosecuted or even asked to account for stolen funds. Therefore, we should not be surprised when people are starving in these counties, while at the same time, their leaders are becoming billionaires in the shortest time imaginable. Leaders from these counties have used the lame excuse that starvation is as a result of bad weather conditions. That is absolute nonsense, according to us. Countries like Israel, Egypt, and many others are basically in the heart of many deserts, but never experience food shortage. In fact, they even export to other countries. It is shameful that from such desert countries, we import oranges, rice, sugar, fish and fish products, and even textiles. Agriculture, as you all know in our constitution, is a devolved function to the county governments. And that function of agriculture comes with billions of money allocated to it. We have conducted our basic research and established that all the 12 counties where Kenyans are starving today or are on the verge of death are some of the counties that receive the highest allocation of our national revenue. For example, Turkana County, with its population of just over 1 million residents, receives the second highest allocation of money, second to the Nairobi City County, with a population of over 5 million people. Therefore, whilst we sympathize with the starvation and the deaths happening in the counties of Turkana, for example, and others, we also must now ask the hard question: what is the value of these billions of Kenya shillings sent to the counties? In fact, we wish to demonstrate why governors in some of these counties, in the light of this starvation, must not only be removed from public office in accordance with Article 181 of the Kenya Constitution, as well as Section 33 of the County Government Act, but they must also be prosecuted for causing deaths of their people when they could have avoided those deaths by prudently utilizing billions of funds they receive annually for purposes of food security in their respective counties. We say this because of the billions of Kenya shillings they receive annually, but which is also stolen in their very watch. We also know that while the money is stolen in their very watch, they have also become billionaires within the shortest time possible. At the same time, their people are starving to death. Now let us exemplify this in the following manner. In the county of Turkana, which is really now the face of this starvation, and despite being the second highest recipient of national revenue, while the governor of Turkana, Governor Nanok, pathetically attempted to defend how he spends over 10 billion Kenya shillings the county receives annually, he also failed and never owned up to the theft of public money that is documented by the Auditor General. This is just money from national revenue. We are not talking about the money the county government of Turkana receives from tallow oil. We are not talking about the money that the county government of Turkana receives from UNHCR for compensation for the land that refugees occupy, or others, that World Bank projects that are there, entities like UNDP and others. We are talking about national revenue allocated to them. So for the avoidance of doubt, Governor Nanok must also account for Kenya shillings 680 million that is stolen or unaccounted for in the financial year 2014-2015. He must also account for Kenya shillings 2.367 billion stolen in the financial year 2015-2016, just to mention by two examples. And the trend, of course, of theft continued in the following financial years. This is the same narrative for all the other 12 counties that include Baringo, Mandera, Isiolo, Samburu, Marsabit, Makueni, Kilifi, Wajir, Lamu, Kitui, Tana River, and even West Pokot. In all those counties, and you will see, if you go to the Auditor General report, the allocation to these counties and also the money that is lost, the theft is happening in equal measure. So while governors are saying we have allocated XY amount of money for agriculture or for health or for education, they should also tell us who has stolen certain amounts of money in these counties. What then are the solutions going forward? First and foremost, we must do everything possible to save lives. The national government must operationalize the authority in charge of disaster management and preparedness and deploy foodstuffs, water, and medication to avoid any more deaths in all those 12 counties. We also call on the Kenya Red Cross to immediately deploy humanitarian aid to all those affected counties. This is what any country and its leadership must do when faced with a humanitarian crisis of this magnitude. We also urge the national and county government to stop denying that there is no starvation in those counties, because evidence is there. People are starving, people are dying. We are disappointed that some top leaders are trying to do a PR exercise on a life-threatening situation such as the starvation of people in these 12 counties. Now, at the second level, we must do the following in the light of the gravity of this matter, and further as the need to seek accountability from both governors and their respective counties. Number one, we now must operationalize the provisions of Article 181 of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010. In the light of the gravity of this matter, and while we must urgently find an immediate solution to prevent more deaths, we must also immediately initiate the process of removal of all those governors in whose counties residents are starving to death and who cannot at the same time account for billions of Kenya shillings documented by the Auditor General in its various reports. These monies could have been used to ensure there is food security. They are directly responsible for the situation in their counties because they were given the mandate by the people in these respective counties. So they cannot escape personal responsibilities as governors. They cannot run away from the fact that they are the people who ask for resources for agriculture, for other things. And therefore, if that money is not accounted for, this falls under Article 181 of the Constitution, which is an abuse of office, for which a governor must be removed from office. The second solution is to operationalize Article 192 of the Kenya Constitution 2010. And this is exactly the message we are passing to President Uhuru Kenyatta, that you must now invoke the provisions of Article 182 of the Kenya Constitution and seriously consider suspending those counties where starvation to death is ongoing. The failure by counties to avert these starvations meets the criteria of, and I quote, any other special circumstances under which the president may suspend a county government. To allow the prevailing situation to deteriorate means that the governors must have slept on their jobs. The question we must now ask ourselves is this: how did we reach here in the first place? Why do governments, both county and national, ignore warnings of experts that drought and famine recurs almost every 5 years? Why do they fail to plan around this period in order to avoid the current humanitarian crisis? To continue blaming weather conditions, is absolute nonsense. In addition, it's an admission on the part, it's an admission that the leadership lacks capacity and suitability to plan for those issues like food security that are of priority in their respective counties. Most of the affected counties are from the arid and semi-arid regions of Kenya. It should therefore be common sense that food security and water must remain the priority of those counties. This was the wisdom of the Committee of Experts when they devolved agriculture to be a function of counties. It is also for this reason that the national government allocates money for agriculture. It should therefore also be in the interest of the national government to demand accountability for money allocated for agriculture as well as for water, amongst other services that must be enjoyed by every Kenyan at every level in these countries. Thank you very much. And that's the end of our statement. We'll share it with you. Yes, sir.
Okay. According to the ongoing starvation in the 12 counties, many leaders have said there are no deaths.
There are no what?
Hakuna kifo katika hizo counties.
Yes.
According to you, are these statements reckless or they are deaths?
Well, their statement is reckless because, like I said, we have conducted basic research and we have called people on the ground, some of our contacts on the ground. They have confirmed to us that indeed there are deaths, there are starvations, there are people on the verge of dying. So it's a lie to say that there are no deaths. And after all, I see it contradictory that the same people who are saying there are no deaths are also authorizing about 2 billion Kenya shillings for relief food. What is the point then of denying there are no deaths at the same time you're actually allocating 2 billion Kenya shillings for relief supply? So the truth for the matter is there are deaths and they're just playing PR exercise with this life-threatening situation.
Finally for me, according to you, this year we are coming out looking for aid, looking for food, taking assistance to the counties. What is the long-term solution to forget these things?
Well, the long-term solution, as we have suggested, is this. We must seek accountability for money that goes to the county, especially for money that is made for things like agriculture and food security. There is no accountability. There are no proper plans, sustainable plans to ensure that this kind of situation is averted. Like we have said in our statement, we know that every 5 years there will be famine, there will be drought in this country. So the long-term solution is that we must get a leadership that is actually suitable and capable of planning around the resources that we get. But lastly, we must also now punish corruption. We are not punishing corruption enough. Like I said, in these counties, even though they receive lots of money, and I've demonstrated by the example of Turkana County, for example, that in 2013, 2014, 608 million is not accounted for. 2015, 2016, 2.3 billion Kenya shillings is not accounted for. But nobody is ever punished for this money. So long as we are not punishing theft of public money, then things like starvation will still recur because it's now, experts have indicated every 5 years there will be. But let's also give a market to our farmers. For example, I know in Trans Nzoia, maize is rotting in silos. Why isn't government buying this maize from farmers from Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu, and others that could actually have saved lives? I think for me, those are the long-term solution. But over and above that, we must get a transformative leadership for this country. So long as we recycle the same fellows who cannot account for money every financial year, to become governors, to become MPs, then I think we are just chasing the wind in this country. Yeah. Yes, Nas.
Doctor, I just want clarification on one issue. Turkana County is planning for a cultural event next month.
That's true.
And they have allocated 600 million for the cultural event.
Yes.
And it's a public outcry in the same. They're saying, why should these people plan for a cultural event? And yet people are starting. What's your take?
As you know, there are two things that can happen here. I mean, I have already spoken against Tobongolore Cultural Festival in Turkana because it's actually nonsensical, it is logical, and it lacks no basic that you can plan a cultural event where you expect the starving population to come and dance for you culturally. It doesn't even make any sense. I mean, do you want the dying people to come and dance and celebrate a culture? Between culture and giving people dignity and food, which one should you actually do? I think this is why I think Governor Nanok honestly has lost it in his mind, together with his county officials. How on earth can you go to bed having planned for 600 million for a cultural event on a people who are starving to death? So we will be petitioning, we will be writing formally to the county government of Nanok that he must stop that nonsense of planning for a cultural event when people are actually dying. But I'm also happy to confirm to you that there is a member of the county assembly from Takwel Ward who has actually moved the county assembly of Turkana under section 50, I think at rule number 50 of the county government rules, to actually say that let's suspend Tobongolore Cultural Festival until we address the humanitarian crisis in Turkana. So I join them in saying that Tobongolore right now is absolute nonsense. We shouldn't even think about it. We must give people food first, medicine, and water. And I think for me, if Governor Nanok continues with Tobongolore, shame on him and shame on all the people who want to go and use that event as a 2022 campaign. I understand that some top leaders, including the deputy president, is scheduled to attend that event. I hope William Ruto is listening to me, and I'm telling William Ruto, don't even dare go to Turkana. You will actually be supporting the deaths of people if you can go and celebrate and speak about politics in 2022 when people are actually dying. That is irresponsible leadership, it's inhumane, and I think shame on anybody who will want to go to that ceremony. And that's the reason why for me, coming from that county, I've never attended Tobongolore since it was started. Because I think it's not a priority for the people of Turkana to actually go for a cultural festival when they have got many serious problems. They don't have basic water, they don't have good roads, they don't have food. You know, there's insecurity. You know, between insecurity and all these basic needs and celebrating culture, which one really should come first? I think basic needs should come first. Yeah. Thank you. I think you have a question.
Yes. Mheshimiwa, you did mention of driving corruption both at the national level and at the counties.
Yes.
In recent weeks, we've seen verbal attacks that have been meted on the DCI by the politicians, including the deputy president himself.
Mm-hmm.
We want to seek your opinion whether indeed there is a point of argument by these politicians or they're just politicizing the entire process for the benefit of their own political or something.
You know, the sad thing is this. We have normalized corruption so much in this country that it's okay to be corrupt. It's okay to be a thief. And so that when the agencies, investigative agencies like DCI, and in this particular case, I honestly support Kinoti, he must go after thieves of public money. I think people are politicizing this investigation of corruption because the number one thieves of public money in this country are the political class, especially those with resources. Like I've demonstrated here, you've got the county governments, the 12 county governments, that are actually reeling in pain. Their people are starving. But at the same time, they say they have allocated XY amounts of billions for, say, agriculture or education or health. At the same time, when you read the Auditor General report, he actually concludes that money has been stolen in all these countries. And the same thing for the national government. So I think those people who are trying to attack DCI, Kinoti, are just trying to, are trying to prevent, are trying to cover up for corruption that is real in this country. It's not rocket science, boss. You just need to look at the Auditor General report. You just need to look at the headlines from your respective newspapers. Money is stolen every day. I mean, Kimwarere Dam the other day and Aror Dam. We know that billions were allocated. In fact, the paradox is this, and maybe to mention the same Deputy President William Ruto, he did not actually dispute the fact that money was stolen. He just corrected the figure that was stolen. We are talking about 22 billion. Some said 12 billion. But he came and said, no, it's not 12 billion. It's actually 7 billion. So the question is not whether money is stolen or not. The question is how much is stolen. There seems to be an agreement that let's steal from this country. So it's no longer about whether it is stolen or not. So it's about how much we steal. And this has been confirmed by top leadership, including Deputy President Ruto himself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we will be writing formally to IBC on this particular issue because there is an erroneous impression created that there is no legal framework to hold a referendum in Kenya. That's a lie. The people who are saying that have not read Article 255 of the Kenya Constitution. They have not read Article 256 relating to parliamentary initiative. They have also not read Article 257, the popular initiative, how you can actually go to a referendum. And by the way, you actually don't need to go to a referendum at all when people agree on issues. If you look at the Punguza Mizigo referendum call, which is supported by Third Way Alliance and 1.4 million Kenyans, you know, we have proposed to address things like corruption, how to bring services to the people at the ward level, how to increase more money to the counties, accountability and all that, reduce the size of parliament. We don't need to disagree. We don't need to go to a referendum. If the county assemblies pass this and National Assembly agrees, then the president just signs it as an amendment to the law. So there is no need for a referendum. So people who are talking about the lack of a comprehensive legal regime to handle matters referendum are just trying to subvert or to divert the idea, the need for Kenyans to amend the constitution. So there are sufficient, because let me ask you, in 2005, we did not even have the new constitution. We were operating under the old constitution. Yet Kenyans went on a referendum. And the question is very simple. For us as Third Way Alliance, we have already effected the Punguza Mizigo proposal into the current constitution. So the product of that is a new constitution, the amended constitution 2019. So the choice Kenyans will have at a referendum is a yes or no. Yes to the amended constitution or no to amended constitution. So the effect will be to select two documents. The constitution as it is, which is really the burden on Kenyans, and we have demonstrated what that burden is, or the amended constitution by Third Way Alliance Kenya, supported by Third Way Alliance Kenya, which reduces the cost of governance on Kenyans. So, this talk about referendum is politicized, because after all, if you look at the people who are, and I hope IBC is not accepting itself to be arm twisted by the JLAC, because these are just operatives or political parties. They are not actually elected representatives. Even though they are elected representatives, but at least their main modus operandi is what does my party tell me. It's not about what their constituents sent them to the National Assembly to do. Yeah, I think that's enough for the day. Santini, you'll share the press.